Last time, we followed one man, one decision, one moment that rewrote history. This time, 5 men. Same mountain, same darkness, same choice. 5 soldiers walked into a Kashmiri mountain in April 2020. The world wasn't watching. The world was locked inside, counting deaths from a different enemy. But in the Keren sector, men from India's most elite fighting unit were hunting something far more dangerous than a virus. They found their target. And then the mountain swallowed them whole. This is Operation Randori Behak, and almost no one knows it happened. April 2020. COVID-19 has locked down over 3 billion people. India is in one of the strictest lockdowns on Earth. Streets are empty. Borders are sealed. The news cycle is consumed by infection rates, body counts, ventilator shortages. But the line of control, the de facto border between India and Pakistan in Kashmir, never sleeps. It doesn't observe lockdowns. It doesn't care about pandemics. Intelligence sources had been tracking a pattern. A group of heavily armed militants, backed and equipped across the border, were attempting to infiltrate through the Keren sector lines, terrain that makes every step a calculation. The army's regular units had picked up and lost the trail of these militants multiple times. April 3rd, contact made, then lost. April 4th, contact again, then lost. The decision was made to call in the specialists. For the quiet professionals, the ones no one talks about until it's too late. Let's talk about who these men were. Subedar Sanjeev Kumar Thakur, the team leader, a career soldier from Himachal Pradesh who had spent decades in the parachute regiment. He had done this before, tracked militants, closed the gap, finished the fight. He was the kind of soldier other soldiers trusted with their lives. Havildar Devendra Singh, experienced, steady, the kind of NCO who held a team together under pressure. Paratrooper Chhatrapal Singh, 22 years old. He had just become one of the youngest men to complete Special Forces selection. His whole life was still ahead of him. Paratrooper Bal Krishnan, quiet and precise, the type who prepared for every contingency. Paratrooper Amit Kumar, fit, focused, committed. He had trained for this moment for years. 5 men, all volunteers, all aware that the mission they were being inserted into was not over. It was catching fire. They were dropped into terrain that would have broken most people before the enemy even showed up. The Keren sector sits along one of the most treacherous stretches of the line of control. The mountains here are not gentle, they are vertical, they are frozen. And in April, the snowpack is deep but unstable, what mountaineers call avalanche season. Sanjeev Kumar's team picked up the trail on April 4th. 4 militants, Pakistan-sponsored, well-armed, experienced infiltrators. They were moving fast, trying to push deeper into Indian territory before they could be cornered. The commandos moved faster. Through the night of April 4th and into the early hours of April 5th, the team closed the distance. This is what 4 Para does. Sustained movement over impossible ground, in total darkness, in silence, with weapons ready and senses open. By dawn on April 5th, they had the militants pinned. They were close enough to finish it. Here is where history turns on a single, terrible moment. In mountain terrain, a cornice is an overhanging mass of compacted snow that forms on the edge of ridgelines. From above, it looks like solid ground. From the side, you can see it's hollow underneath, hanging in space, held up by nothing but frozen air. Experienced mountaineers know to avoid them. But in the dark, on unfamiliar ground, under operational pressure, moving fast to close with a target, a cornice can look like any other patch of snow. In the early light of April 5th, two of the commandos stepped onto a cornice. It gave way. Both men fell into the gorge below. In that moment, Subedar Sanjeev Kumar faced the most devastating decision a soldier can face. Two of his men were down, in a gorge, in hostile terrain. The mission was still active. The militants were close. He didn't hesitate. He led the remaining team down into the gorge to reach their fallen brothers. The militants had heard the cornice collapse. They knew where the soldiers were now. They knew the team was in the gorge, lower ground, exposed in the chaos of a rescue attempt. They opened fire. What followed was one of the most ferocious close-quarters engagements in Kashmir's long and bloody history. The commandos of 4 para, some possibly injured, in a gorge at dawn, were fighting uphill against an enemy who had the high ground and the element of surprise. But they were 4 para. Sanjeev Kumar's team fought back. In brutal, short-range combat, the kind that Special Forces train for in the dark for years, they engaged the 4 militants. All 4 militants were killed, every single one. But when the gunfire stopped and the snow settled, all 5 commandos were dead too. Subedar Sanjeev Kumar, Havildar Devendra Singh, Paratrooper Chhatrapal Singh, Paratrooper Balkrishnan, Paratrooper Amit Kumar. None of them came back from that gorge. India was still deep in lockdown when the news broke. There were no mass gatherings, no public funerals with crowds lining the streets. The men who gave everything came home to a country that was already grieving something else. But the army knew what it had witnessed. Subedar Sanjeev Kumar Thakur was posthumously awarded the Kirti Chakra, India's second highest peacetime gallantry award. His wife received it from the President of India on 22nd of November 2021. Havildar Devendra Singh and the 3 paratroopers were each awarded the Sena Medal for gallantry, posthumously. The awards are deserved. But they don't capture what actually happened in that gorge. What happened is this. A team leader chose to go into the low ground to rescue his people, knowing the enemy was still up there, knowing the odds, going anyway. That choice is what the Kirti Chakra is really for, not just the battle, the choice. Chhatrapal Singh was 22. Think about that. 22 years old. He had barely started. He chose one of the hardest paths a young man can choose, passed selection into India's most elite unit, and walked into a Kashmir mountain in April 2020 during a global pandemic, and did not come home. These men are not household names. Operation Randori Behak is not a film. There is no monument most people know. In the noise of 2020, it almost disappeared entirely. That is exactly why we're here. Some stories don't make the news. Some heroes don't get the headlines. Some sacrifices happen in the dark, at altitude, in a gorge nobody has ever heard of. And the world moves on. We don't get to let them disappear. 5 men, 1 mountain, 1 decision. That's what Operation Randori Behak comes down to. Not tactics, not geopolitics, not a news cycle. A team leader who went into the low ground for his people. If you're new here, this channel exists for stories like this one. Stories that happened. Stories that matter. Stories that almost no one tells. Subscribe. Share this one. Because Chhatrapal Singh was 22 years old, and he deserves to be remembered. Case 0. File 002. Closed.